In King's Landing. During a meeting of the small council, Tywin informs the councillors that Tyrion's trial will commence that afternoon. Lord Varys reports that the Hound has been spotted in the Riverlands, prompting Tywin to place a bounty on his head. Varys also updates the council on Daenerys' successful conquest of Meereen, leading Tywin to consider strategies to prevent her from staging an invasion. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Jaime escorts a shackled Tyrion to the throne room for the start of his trial. King Tommen steps aside from the proceedings, appointing his grandfather Tywin, Prince Oberyn Martell, and Lord Mace Tyrell as judges. The prosecution calls several witnesses, including Esser Meryn Trant, Grand Maester Pycelle, Queen Regent Cersei, and Varys, all of whom provide testimony supporting the charges against Tyrion. During the recess, Jaime approaches Tywin and pleads for Tyrion's life, offering to renounce his oath to the Kingsguard and return to Castle Rock as Tywin's heir. Tywin agrees, promising that Tyrion will be allowed to join the Night's Watch after being found guilty of Joffrey's murder, on the condition that he pleads for mercy. Before the recess ends, Jaime meets with Tyrion and urges him to accept the deal. However, Tyrion remains deeply skeptical, pointing out that Eddard Stark was given a similar promise yet still lost his head. Jaime, determined to save his brother, begs him to trust their father and advises him to keep your mouth shut, no more outbursts. As the trial resumes, Tywin calls the next witness to testify, Shae. Her unexpected appearance shocks both Tyrion and Jaime. Shae testifies that Tyrion and Sansa conspired to murder Joffrey, claiming that Sansa sought revenge for the deaths of her father, mother, and brother. She humiliates Tyrion by exposing his sexual desires in front of the court. Overcome with rage and humiliation, Tyrion demands to confess his crimes. He furiously declares that he saved King's Landing from Stannis Baratheon's attack and regrets not letting Stannis destroy the city, horrifying the court. Tyrion then claims to be guilty, but not of Joffrey's murder. Instead, he declares that his true crime is being a dwarf. Tywin dismisses this, saying Tyrion is not on trial for being a dwarf. Tyrion, filled with bitterness, insists that he has been on trial for his entire life because of it. When Tywin asks if he has anything to say in his defense, Tyrion responds coldly, admitting that while he did not kill Joffrey, he wishes he had. He lashes out at Cersei, stating that watching her vicious bastard of a son die gave him more satisfaction than 1,000 lying whores. Tyrion then directs his anger toward the court, roaring that he wishes he had been the monster they always believed him to be, and would have gladly died if it meant seeing them all poisoned. Outraged, Tywin orders Esser Meryn to return Tyrion to the dungeons. Before being taken away, Tyrion defiantly declares that he will not die for a crime he didn't commit, and demands a trial by combat. In Meereen. On a bright sunny day outside Meereen, a goatherd and his son peacefully tend to their goats on a hillside. To pass the time, the son playfully tosses rocks. Suddenly, Drogon, now the size of a horse, appears, setting the field ablaze and killing a flock of goats before snatching one away. Distraught, the goatherd travels to Meereen and humbly lays the charred remains of his flock before Queen Daenerys, fearing her wrath and believing Drogon's attack to be a form of punishment. Daenerys, however, expresses sincere regret for Drogon's actions and reassures the goatherd by promising to repay him 3 times the value of his lost flock. After the goatherd departs, Hizdahr zo Loraq steps forward with his request, the right to bury his father's remains in the Temple of the Graces. His father had been one of the Meereenese great masters, crucified on Daenerys' orders. Daenerys reminds Hizdahr that his father was among those who crucified the 163 slave children. However, Hizdahr explains that his father had opposed the crucifixion of the children, but was overruled, and was ultimately punished by Daenerys despite his objections. Somewhat softened by this revelation, Daenerys grants permission for Hizdahr to bury his father. As Hizdahr leaves, Daenerys inquires about the number of remaining supplicants. Missandei informs her that over 200 more are still waiting. In Braavos. Stannis and Davos travel to the Iron Bank of Braavos, seeking financial support for Stannis' war campaign. Initially, Tycho Nestoris, the bank's representative, declines their request. However, Davos passionately argues that backing Stannis is the most reliable way for the bank to recover the gold it had loaned to Tywin Lannister. Persuaded by Davos's reasoning, the bank agrees to provide the funds. Davos then uses the newly acquired gold to re-enlist his old pirate ally, Salladhor Saan, to Stannis' cause. At the Dreadfort, Yara Greyjoy prepares her troops to storm the Dreadfort in a daring attempt to rescue her brother, Theon. Before the assault, she reads a threatening letter from Ramsay Snow, warning that he will flay any Ironborn who refuse to leave the north. Meanwhile, Ramsay takes Miranda's virginity in a violent encounter. As Yara and her troops reach the Dreadfort, they scale the castle walls under the cover of darkness and silently eliminate the guards while searching for Theon. After interrogating a guard, Yara learns that Theon is being held in the dog kennels. Despite promising to spare the guard, Yara kills him and leads her men to Theon's cage. Yara opens the cage, but Theon, deeply broken and traumatized, refuses to leave, believing it's another of Ramsay's twisted games. Ramsay and his soldiers soon arrive, and a fierce fight breaks out, resulting in casualties on both sides. Terrified and convinced his identity is now Reek, Theon bites Yara and retreats to his cage. Ramsay releases the hounds, forcing Yara and her surviving men to retreat. When one of her men asks about Theon, Yara solemnly declares that her brother is dead. Later, Ramsay rewards Reek for his loyalty by allowing him to take a bath. Though fearful that it's another cruel trick, Reek complies after Ramsay reassures him. Ramsay then reveals his plan to reclaim Moat Cailin, intending to have Reek impersonate his former self, Theon Greyjoy. About Shae. Shae is a camp follower whom Bronn, a sellsword serving Tyrion, acquires at Tyrion's request. Initially attached to a ginger-haired knight, Bronn persuades the knight to relinquish her to Tyrion, who is fighting with the Lannister army in the Riverlands. Tyrion is immediately captivated by her charm. He tells her that while he wants honesty from her, he also wants her to act as if she desires him, and that they are spending their last night on Earth together. Later, Tyrion engages in a drinking game with Shae and Bronn, hoping to uncover more about her past. However, Shae remains guarded and refuses to share any specific details. Tyrion suggests that Shae's mother was a prostitute and that her father abandoned them, but Shae firmly denies it, making it clear that she has no desire to discuss her family. He appears closer to the truth when he mentions her ambitions, but when he implies that she was low-born, Shae confidently corrects him, indicating that she was not of low birth. Shae sidesteps Tyrion's inquiries and instead finds information about his background, especially the event involving his marriage to Tysha. Tyrion fell in love at the age of 16 and secretly wed a young wheelwright's daughter, whom he had assisted in protecting from 2 rapists. However, the girl turned out to be a prostitute who Jaime had hired to convert him into a man. Upon learning of it, Tywin Lannister had the girl gang raped by his guards and the marriage dissolved. Shae responds that he should have known she was a whore, since a girl who has nearly been raped doesn't welcome another man into her bed before sharing a bed with him. After winning the fight on the Green Fork, Tyrion's father appoints him as the acting hand of the king. Tywin had been designated as Joffrey Baratheon's hand, but he had to stay in the field with his army because of the war. Tywin prohibited Tyrion from suing Shae. To Shae's joy, Tyrion disobeys his father's orders after complaining to her about him. Tyrion puts Shae covertly in the Tower of the Hand after she goes with him to King's Landing. When Varys learns of Shae's existence, he quietly threatens Tyrion. Shae tells Varys that she first met Tyrion while working in his father's kitchens. Frustrated by her confinement, Shae grows increasingly restless. In response, Tyrion arranges for her to serve as a handmaiden to the captive Sansa. Over time, Sansa grows to trust Shae, eventually confiding in her about her hatred for King Joffrey after surviving an attack and near assault during the riots in King's Landing. Despite this trust, Shae cautions Sansa to be careful and not to trust anyone. When Sansa begins her first period, signaling that she is now capable of bearing Joffrey's children, Shae helps her conceal the evidence by flipping the mattress. When Bernadette walks in on them, Shae threatens her into silence, but their efforts are ultimately thwarted when the Hound discovers them. Shae is puzzled when Tyrion arrives unusually tender and protective, expressing his love with the words, "I am yours and you are mine." Unbeknownst to Shae, Queen Cersei has mistakenly imprisoned and threatened the prostitute Rose, believing her to be Tyrion's lover. This is Cersei's retaliation for Tyrion's political maneuvering involving her daughter, Myrcella, and his plan to have Joffrey fight in the heart of the battle. Tyrion is relieved that Shae is safe, as she has grown to mean a great deal to him. The night before the Battle of the Blackwater, Shae stays with Tyrion. He suggests that she could escape for her safety, but Shae declares her loyalty and refuses to leave him. When the bells signal the arrival of the attacking forces, Shae accompanies Sansa to the throne room. She shares a strained and distant public farewell with Tyrion, as he is careful not to expose their relationship. During the battle, Sansa and Shae take shelter with the women of the court in Maegor's holdfast under Cersei's watch. Suspicious of Shae's unfamiliar face, Cersei begins questioning her about her background,